Hey guys, Palsteron here, and today let's talk about my Gemma 2 Sparkle League starter for the Vorax League. So since mind control has been nerfed quite a bit for early game, I thought I would branch out to a new league starter. This time around, Frostbitten Heart Gemma got reworked, so I thought I would jump on the train and try out a few new skills, as well as that we now have the Tangle Mechanic, which is basically like Brands in Path of Exile, and it attaches to an enemy and then repeatedly fires whatever spell you put on there, which is very strong. You can have multiple of them down at the same time. Pretty cool, but the biggest thing about it is it casts on top of the enemy. So for example, projectile skills that you usually have to aim or that usually have a flight time just get impacted immediately. And one of those skills that gets so much from this is actually Sparkle. So Sparkle, if you don't know, is basically ball lightning from Path of Exile 1, but it's basically a projectile you shoot out and that ticks enemies over and over, just hits a lot with chain lightnings flying out of the ball. And you can manipulate its projectile speed to where it basically stands still and just stays on top of the enemy. And it has a support that makes it so everything gets sucked in. So yeah, I thought this would be a perfect situation. Void 241, shout out to him. He actually got me to try out the skill. And yeah, now we're here. In this video, I'll go through my whole progression from day 1 up to now, from no DPS to I think currently 400 something billion. And I'll explain the main mechanics around Frostbite, the new Frostbitten Heart rework, and everything you need to know about Sparkle. In this video, I'll go through the whole progression process from leveling up to 75, going from 600 million all the way to 500 billion damage. I have some other useful stuff in the doc as well. I will link it down below in the description, but I will also go through it in a progression section in this video. Before anything, let's give you a showcase. So these are the tangles. You put them down, and whenever an enemy comes nearby, they get cast, right? Like, so basically your static strike gets cast, right? So I put it down, boom, it flies around. It kind of does that on its own, all right? You can just walk around, but you have to press a button. So it's not exactly like mind control. You will have to sometimes repress the button. You especially want this because the targeting is a little bit weird. So if you, for example, have a boss right here, you definitely want to go a little bit near him and prioritize him. All right, let's start with Tangle. So Tangle is the mechanic that lets you cast a spell in a different way. So you put it down right here and you can see this thingy forming right here. That is a Tangle, and you don't see that you have done multiple because they spawn on top of each other, but you do, right? Here you can see them now because they are detached. So right now I have 6 maximum. These 2 are activated and they are circling around the boss, and the others are just kind of hanging around. Now, if this was a pack of monsters, for example, they would actually be attached to other enemies as well, and it would have even crazier explosions. Now, some weird things with them first. Standing near sometimes deals more damage. I can sometimes replicate it, sometimes can't. Do that at your own leisure. It might just be a multiplier I missed somewhere that has to be nearby. But the biggest thing is if you're spam clicking, you're actually dealing significantly more damage. So for example, right now I'm holding down my button on a boss and it will deal round about 30 to 40-ish% more damage than I would usually do, which is obviously very, very nice. So right now I've around about 500 billion and without it, around about 400. And I think what's happening here is that whenever I place a new one, it immediately casts the spell and then respects your cast time. So that's what I think is happening, but who the hell knows? There's also a thing here that some people don't like the way it feels while mapping, and you can try this out yourself. It is right here in battle. So if you go down here, keyboard and mouse, auto aim mode. There is mode 1, which makes it so it's locked onto enemies and your cursor matters where your brands go. And there's mode 2 where they auto target nearby, which is only like 5 meters or so. So pick and choose. I actually like mode 1 better. Some people like mode 2. As for Sparkle, I will quickly show you how the spell looks without Tangle. So if we zoom in a little bit here, you can see I'm going to cast this ball lightning up front and it's going to go up and then come back. This comeback only works if you have no increased projectile speed and you have the slow projectile support. That's how it works. Now, what you don't see really well here is that in this area, everything gets targeted and zapped constantly. So the longer this ball is in the vicinity of the enemy, the more damage it will deal. So for example, if I start spamming here, you will see that they go pretty crazy and they also stay behind for a little bit, as you can see right here. And that is because of my support, which is static electricity. I would not say crazy for damage. There's actually, it's decent, right? It's okay damage. But what it really does well is give you extra clear. Leaving these lightning bolt, like the biggest problem with Sparkle, I will say straight up before you have both your supports, is just kind of clear. Magnetic field helps quite a bit. it pulls enemies in, and then this one makes it so the lightning balls stay behind, and all of a sudden you have a very nice package. I would still recommend going Sparkle as early as possible because it deals so much more damage than most of the other options, and damage is your biggest problem early on, not clear speed, but just so you know, the clear gets a lot better over time. Now, this is important. You don't want any projectile speed. I will quickly show you what happens with the ball lightning if you do. You will deal less than a fourth of your damage. So I will now remove slower projectiles and show you what happens to my damage. So you saw earlier when I'm actually holding down, which I'm going to do now, I had around about 500. And as you can see, the ball lightnings are flying out. They're not staying in the same place, which is very bad. Now, what if that happens to you, but you have slow projectiles in? That's when you have to check if you have projectile speed from somewhere. The biggest mistake people make is they have it in the Goddess of Knowledge tree down here. They're like, oh, AoE, which is good for ball lightning, but this is a hybrid node, right? It also has projectile speed, which screws you over. That's a total of 54% projectile speed, which will completely invalidate your slower proj. The second source of projectile speed that you could have is from hero memories. These can have random rolls. If it's projectile speed, it will also break the build. And the last mistake I've seen people make is they have it on their slates. Now, during leveling, as you can see right here, I don't have any crazy slates. You're not going to be min-maxing. You're just going to throw in whatever you get. But if that is projectile speed, you're kind of screwed. You're going to have to roll over it or whatever. Yeah. But you can't really have it. Now, I was running around with 12% projectile speed for a while, and it was mostly fine. It decreased my damage by a little bit, but if it's more than that, then definitely don't go for it and try to remove it as soon as possible. Now, the second mistake after projectile speed that people make is not converting Sparkle. You only deal cold damage on Gemma, so if you do not have conversion, you deal no damage. Sparkle is lightning, so you want to convert it into cold. The way you do this, the easiest way to do this, is with a frozen lightning that has corrupted 100% of lightning to cold. This is an extremely common ring. It's extremely easy to make yourself, but if you don't, it costs around about 40 to 50 FE on the trading house. So this one is the easiest way, and I would get this as soon as possible. However, there are other ways. First, the ring uncorrupted has 50%. So there you go already, right? So you have 50 to 100% from ring. There is also a support. Now, this support only fits into your setup if you don't have both of the Sparkle specific supports yet. But if you have those already, my question is, why can't you afford the ring? So most likely you don't need to, but let's say you can't afford this support yet. You can go for lightning to cold conversion, which is another 50%. And the last way to get it is 50% from a slate. You can see lightning damage converted to cold damage. This is on a node on the assassin tree, and you can get it right here. Once again, do not get the projectile speed, but you get what I'm saying. So you will have to sacrifice a slate if you don't have the ring yet. It is what it is. That's what I did earlier. So here's the checklist again. If you went from Ring of Ice or whatever to Sparkle and you're dealing less damage or not more damage, then one of these things are incorrect. I have a lot of people, for example, running around with only 50% conversion and they don't realize they're running on with half damage. So that's everything you have to check. The increased proj speed is probably the hardest one, but you just have to go through the checklist that I talked about earlier. Slower proj has to be in there, and you also always want to have a source of gain focus blessings. Next up, let's talk about the Gemma 2 rework. Why are we using this new package? Well, straight up, it's just an extremely efficient damage package on top of freezing everything around you, which makes you a lot safer. That is just what it is. But if it didn't have the multipliers that it had, and if Frostbite didn't get reworked, then Gemma would be still whatever. However, Frostbite got a huge rework. So how it works now is you start at 10 maximum Frostbite rating. Important here, there is no more chance to apply Frostbite or anything like that. You just have Frostbite if you hit something and you have this modifier right here. You can get this from multiple sources. I get it from the passive tree. You can also get it from a talent. Inflicts Frostbite when dealing hit cold damage. Now your cold pulse does also apply it, but I would still take this node 100% every single time because otherwise it will be inconsistent for clear everything that doesn't get encompassed by your cold pulse. Just FYI. So yeah, you hit something, you get to your maximum immediately. That's how it works now. But you cannot freeze anymore until you get to 100 max Frostbite rating, which you are not naturally. You start at 10. So you just cannot freeze, right? Until you get another 90 max Frostbite rating, which you get from different sources. And every bit of Frostbite also increases your damage by 1%. So at 100 Frostbite rating, you're basically doubling your damage. That's how strong it is. And there's also stuff like Frostbite Effect, which instead of double with 100% Frostbite Effect, you triple. Then Gemma has some very nice multipliers. For example, here it gets around about 40% more damage. And we have the maximum Frostbite rating here at the end. If you're leveling this character for the first time, just know that once you get Blooming Frost Flower, you will be able to freeze and all your multipliers all of a sudden fall into place. So level 75 is a huge milestone. Now, getting to 100 Frostbite is a big deal. A lot of these are contingent on enemies being frozen, and they are always once you have 100. So you want it for the extra crit, for the additional damage to frozen enemies. And how do you get there? Well, you start with 10 baseline, then you get 50 to max Frostbite rating with extreme coldness. Make sure that at this point you do not have any added fire or any added lightning damage anywhere. You can have added lightning damage if you're sparkle and you're converting, obviously, but added fire is not going to apply anymore. You're only dealing cold damage. So that's 60. Then you get 21 from the passive tree, 3 points right here, 3 points right here. So we're at 81, and then Gemma's trade gives 35 plus depending on your hero memory. So right here, you can see that, yeah, just max Frostbite rating. You can go higher, which is actually good. You do have the Frostbite effect, and it does scale your increased damage higher and higher and higher. So it is a very sought after stat, and you can also get it from stuff like a ring suffix. It is not an ultimate mod, it's advanced, so you can work with it a lot earlier. Now, I'm actually doing some shenanigans right now where I'm replacing my extreme coldness, and I lose the plus 50 to max, but all you need to know is if you go to the dummy and you look at the enemy right here, it has to say at least 100. I'm exactly at 100 right now. I'll get extreme coldness back, then I'm back to 150. I'll upgrade my rings. You can get up to 200. Most common mistake people make is aura reservation. They cannot fit in all their auras. The most important thing here is that your restraint level matters. You get more levels, you get more reservation. It changes whether something fits in or not. So at certain times, you might not be able to fit it in. Same is with seal conversion. It goes up. Sometimes you cannot apply it. Sometimes you can. That is just kind of what it is. You have to play around with it. One way to get around with that is, for example, you can replace spell amplification for a while with Summon Thunder Magus, which is only 25 reservation. But I'm going to kind of go over the triple aura setup. What's important here is the off the beaten track. This one gives you plus to support levels, which gives you better reservation, as well as that support skills mana multiplier is 95. So every support you have in here gives you less reservation. So if you need it, you could throw in another 50 energy, unlock this, and throw in anything. Cooldown recovery, and it would give you less reservation. So you need to make sure that you have as many supports as you possibly can. You can also remove focus buff because it actually works against your reservation as well. And then as troubleshooting at the end, if you still can't fit them in, you can go for sealed mana compensation on the Lich tree itself, but that is something you should only do temporarily. Another reason why your build's gonna start to pop off at 100 Frostbite once you can actually freeze is Frigid Transmission. This is basically your blink. You can see I'm blinking around right now, but after that, I'm on cooldown, right? This gets reset whenever you freeze an enemy. You will literally just be blinking around nonstop. And before that, you can't. So it is a big step. As for the rest of my skills, I am using Biting Cold right here. It's a curse, makes enemies deal extra damage. You want to automate it with preparation. Terrain of Malice makes it an aura around you. You never have to do anything. It just auto cast. Frigid Transmission automatically lets you move around. It is extremely fast once you can actually start freezing because freeze resets the cooldown. Ice Bond gives you extra damage to enemies around it. Frostbite enemies, which are all enemies. Fixate gives you extra damage to marked enemies. If you have mark somewhere already, for example, from your slate, then you can also replace this for Origin. But yeah, whatever you want. This is also automated with prep, although I should probably get some mediums here soon, whatever the case. My auras are Precise Domain Expansion, Frigid Transmission, and Spell Amplification. One important note right here is I am using Precise Concentrated, which works on 3 auras, but only because one of the aura is Frigid Domain. The way this works is Precise Concentrated gives you a ton of aura effect, but only if you only have 2 auras. So it's very restrictive, right? But Frigid Domain, this says auras on you. Frigid Domain applies a debuff to the enemies. So technically it's still a more multiplier, but it doesn't affect you, it affects the enemy. So you can run Precise Consecrated on all 3, but that is very min-maxy and mostly for later, just throwing that out there. I will also talk about aura reservation a little bit later in the video because it's a problem that comes up a lot. Ice Focus for the extra damage, and then obviously Spell Amp also for the extra damage. Now your passive tree will change over time with your progression. Your needs change, you need to adjust everything. So there it is. Now, Peculiar Vibe makes it so you can apply another Tangle to enemies. So it's basically double damage. However, that is a different mod from this modifier, which says Max Tangle, right? This one right here, Max Tangle. This is just the ones that you can put down. This increases your damage with another talent that we'll talk about in a second, but it does not mean that this makes it so you can put 4 on an enemy. They will just lay down. So on single target, this technically does not increase your damage, but it also does because of our second thing right here on Arcanist, Acquaintance. Has Dormant and +1 Max Tangle. Once again, this does not increase the maximum on one boss, but Dormant Entanglement gives you 40% more damage for each inactivated Tangle. So now on single target, 2 of the Tangles are going to be on the boss and the others are going to be lying around, but they give you passively 40% more damage each. Other talents right here, you could swap between Burning Touch and Insight. For me, usually Burning Touch is slightly better. It also gives you cast speed, so it makes your stuff feel better. Other than that, the tree is pretty damn straightforward. You get extra movement speed for each activated Tangle, which is nice. You get some movement speed here. Everything else is up for change. Now on this setup, I have a little bit of a more special one with Ethereal Prism Juggernaut. I'll talk about that at the end in the end game section. But this right here is the premium part. Crit against Frostbitten, crit damage against Frostbitten. If you don't know, that is a lot more than you usually get. And then you have crit strike rating against Frostbitten enemies right here. That is base crit. So spells baseline have 5 base crit. 100 adds +1, that's 6. And you can also get this on the Slate for 7. So then you get Max to Frostbite rating here really strong and 10% more damage against frozen enemies. Next up is the Lich. We'll talk about off the beaten track once we talk about a reservation, but just know that this is where you can fit in all your auras. Other than that, there's the strong +1 to all skills back here. We have the 10% more damage when you have both life and mana reserved, which is once you are going to go Energy Shield, you get a little bit of blur, some crit rating here that I just had to fill in to get to my 24 points that you need for the talent. And then Arcanist is just there for Acquaintance. Now, the nodes right here are quite weak. If you get this somewhere else, great. I don't right now, but that is a budget thing. As for Slates, on your pedigree, the strongest thing you can have is actually Lucky Crit, which is Fluke, or Acquaintance, which we just talked about. However, Fluke is cheaper, and that means that you can get a second mod on it, which is, for me, Insight, 30% more damage, or anything that gives you more damage here is extremely, extremely strong. Fluke gives you lucky critical strike chance, which is especially strong because it negates the unlucky from the helmet later, and this one scales your damage like crazy. On Slates, I'm going for normal ones, once again, out of budget reasons. I'm going for maximum focus blessings here, and then also, where was the other one? Here. +1 from this mod, +1 from this one has Divinity 1, so it can only be applied once. And then anything down here that's even remotely valuable. Obviously, the channeling damage is bad, but yeah, as much as you possibly can. Cold Infiltration is quite strong. Enemies take 30% more damage. To be honest, this is just a budget thing right now where I'm just throwing in anything that gives me anything. So all of these mods matter. Do not negate them. This whole Slate setup, if I removed it, I would deal 1/3 of my damage or maybe even less. Even if you do not have a pedigree yet, all of these add up. They're so important, so get to work. For hero memories, anything that gives you damage or energy shield is good. Percentage damage, cast speed, especially crit damage is super, super strong. Cast speed, do reroll your modifiers on the bottom. If it doesn't line up, do reroll them over and over and get at least something valuable. It matters, even if it's just a stepping stone item. It matters at every stage of the game. Damage equals progression. As for progression, everything we're going to be talking about here is in my dock, all the way from leveling to level 96, where I'm currently sitting at in Profound. There are a few other tidbits that could help you out, maybe Atlas strats, fastest maps to run, some filters and whatnot. Now let's quickly start with progression. I was trying out quite a few skills during campaign. It was kind of like all over the place. It works well. Gemma is very strong. But I would highly recommend to look into Coffee Bean's Frost Core leveling. So if you don't know, in this game, respecking is free until level 90. So you can basically do whatever the hell you want during leveling. And I actually think it's quite strong to go for Frost Core. It's basically totems that you put down. You can put down 2 of them and yeah, just spam them around. It is quite strong. If you follow this setup, you're going to do very fine. up to maps. Most of these uniques actually just drop from chests, so those side areas that give you passive points can drop these. Always look at the loot table, and if you don't get them, for example, let's say you don't get the gloves, then definitely run it again until you do, but it's extremely common, so you're not going to have to screw around too much. However, do note that you can use whatever the hell you want. If you know what you're doing, obviously you can play whatever you please, because the Gemma setup is so vast and you can just slot in whatever. The cold setup is just extremely strong no matter what. Now I transitioned to Sparkle somewhere around tier 5s, tier 6. I don't know if I would have done it earlier. That's just kind of where I started trying it. These are all snapshots right now. Not any of them are perfect. This is just exactly how I did it. There's no POB in this game, so I can't perfectly set it up. So for example, I still have jump gloves in here for no particular reason. But as you can see, this was literally still campaign gear. It is a complete utter trash. Like most of these do not have any mods. Which it is what it is. I also just got my first slate in here. In general, what you're looking for early is good weapons. I will show you how to craft these a little bit later in the video. So we're going to go over that then. But other than that, you're just going to be solo self-found. You're just going to go through. This early on, I am converting with 50% from here and then another 50% from the support. As you can see, I couldn't afford the supports at this point. Multiple proj, I don't think it works, whatever. Like just throw in something else. The early progression is so goddamn easy. I made like multiple mistakes and it was fine. This support here is another 50% for a total of 100. Honestly, if I redid this again, it would be even like 10 times smoother. But like I said, at this point, the price of this ring has been going down steadily. It's now at like 30 FE. So that should be one of the first things you get once you get into tier 7s and once you make your first currency. The second snapshot is me sitting at 600 million. And all this is my helmet is still bad. My gloves are still pretty bad. I'm kind of looking at some of them, but mostly I'm just buying some uniques. So first, Old Grudge is extremely cheap and it gives you a ton of extra damage. Void Embankment gives you stats. Early on, Intelligence is more damage, and you're going to be missing Intelligence everywhere, so this chest is great. Will also give you a little bit of resistances. Then you still have the Grace Boots from campaign. I actually did craft one here with max Frostbite rating, a ring, also some added flat spells, some increased damage. All of these small things do add up. And then I crafted this staff, which once again, we're going to talk about later. I did fill in my slates. Here's the deal. Anything that gives you more damage early on is strong. So +1 gives you 10% more damage. Very good. Then you throw some random stuff in here. If it's whether it's crit, whether it's increased damage, whether it's int, it does not matter. Fill all of these up. You can see right here, this is bad, but I had it at this point and I did not have the money to reroll it. I actually bricked into this and it was still okay at this point. Just don't get too much, but reroll it ASAP. Get the 100% crit against Frostbite. These are all interchangeable. They're all just more damage. You can look at them. They're all good. At this point, I'm also leveled a little bit further. I am now into the Arcanist tree. I'm not Lich yet, so you cannot do the full 3 aura setup yet, which in hindsight, I'm not really sure if it was good, but it is what it is. The next thing I did was upgrade my hero memories. I now have purples with the proper implicits: Intelligence, Max Energy Shield, and Cast Speed. Very important. And then if you can get another relevant mod down here, also really nice. You can get these for 1 to 2 FE each. Do note that the upgrading materials are not wasted on these. You want to upgrade them as soon as possible to 20, because once you're done with them, you can recycle them again in your inventory right here with the recycle button, and you get all your stuff back. Now, next up, we have the tier 8 snapshot, which is round about 1.6 billion. And this is where you get your shit together, kind of. That means you are going to craft tier 2 items. So all of these are tier 2. They're very easy to craft. And the staff is actually still the same. But all these items that were trash before are now replaced by energy shield, damage, resistances, so you can actually get into tier 8s without getting completely destroyed. At this point, I am pretty sure I should be full energy shield. I'm not 100% sure at this point. Maybe I still had a little bit of life hanging around at this point. But yeah, you get all of these with relevant stats. You can look over them. Energy shield, good. Defense, good. I don't think I upgraded too much else. I got levels, so that's where the extra damage comes in, and some other stuff. I did get the first support now. The magnetic field, this one is the important one to get first. The second one is something you can get later. Also, at this stage, I did get the Frozen Lightning Ring, which meant that I was able to replace the Cold to Lightning support. Also, make sure that at this stage, you start getting your energy up on all of your items that you can. So you can use all the supports. This matters, right? Fixate, you want all this extra effect. On Icebound, you want the extra effect. And then, yeah, extended duration on Biting Cold because there's a little bit of a downtime in between. And obviously a 6-link. Now then we have the 3 billion tankier version. Not only did I double my damage here, but I also got a new chest in the building, which is Corrupted Bulwark. This one costs around about, I think 50 FE-ish or whatever. This one just gives you a ton of energy shield. Early on, getting flat energy shield is very hard. You get a lot of percentage from the tree, but this one will completely fix your build. At this stage, I probably had like 8k energy shield already, so it felt great. It also gives you less damage taken, but yeah, in general, that means you lose intelligence from your body armor, which means you want to get it back everywhere. At this stage, I still have low tier items. Some of these are still tier 3, but you do want to recraft your wand. So right now, I have 2 wands, as you can see, and they have +2 lightning. I bought these with +2 lightning, and the rest I crafted. For tier 1 items, it is important to have at least an 86 base, and then you can start crafting on them. You cannot get +2 levels on anything below that, and then just anything relevant that you can spam. For one of the ones, I would probably go for Energy Shield Regain. You can also get it from the tree, but it is very nice for sustain. You can also see I'm starting to work on my hero memories right here. This is a big deal because it doesn't give you a level to your trait necessarily, but it gives you extra modifiers in the implicit, and it gives you access to tier 1 modifiers. So if you buy these, you want to have as fixed affixes 2 relevant mods. I also at this stage got the 2nd Sparkle support. Do note that if you have a low tier 1, it might actually be less damage than before, but the clear will still make up for it. Also do note that you can upgrade these in your inventory right here. If you go here, you can have this button, and then you need to sacrifice the same support to upgrade it. And it gives you 4% more damage per upgrade, up to 20% more. And at that point, it is clearly more damage. I would still slot it in as a level 1 as soon as you can, just because it's super cozy while clearing. Now, I got some stuff in between here, but I will go to the next relevant one, which is the Traveler 8 one. This is what I beat Traveler 8 with, and I'll kind of explain what's going on here. The most important thing is I respec into Lich. I got the off the beaten track. This is where, just so you know, this means that your supports actually give you less reservation to your auras. So that means that the more supports you have in them, the better, instead of the other way around. So you will see me slotting in random stuff right here. Actually, I don't have it yet, but for example, CDR here. Worthless, but also it gives me less reservation, right? So it kind of acts as a restraint of sorts. And you can see I have 1 on life and whatnot. If you ever struggle with reservation, once again, I'll tell you to go to the Lich tree and allocate a few points down here, but there's most likely something wrong with your setup. Other than that, you will see that I now have tier 1 gear, and that matters a lot because my int is a lot higher. I got a ton more energy shield. I got crit rating wherever I can, and I got my res a little bit higher. Crit rating here as well, increased damage, spell damage, cold. Important as well, a implicit on your belt is super, super cheap. You can get this one early on from the blending over here. Blending ritual, put your belt in here and just get anything that is cheap. At this stage, I also have the 100% conversion, so I don't have to bother with that slate anymore, and I can put in a better damage slate. I don't think at this stage anything changed here. Yeah, just I got frail, which is another 15% more damage taken instead of the conversion. On movement speed, get some movement speed on boots. It's very strong. And now I have all tier 1 mods on my wands. You can see right here, I also got a Dreamcraft for 8 pen. But that's by the by. I'm not sure if that's really economically all that strong. Also, you can see that all my hero memories are upgraded to 40, and they have all relevant stats: crit damage, cast speed, attack cast speed, spell damage, and so on. You can see it right here. All of them are relevant. All of these add up. Okay, so we got Traveler 8 down. Now you can farm at tier 8s for a while, and you're just gonna keep upgrading. You're gonna have to start farming for currency, and it is very efficient up to this point. There is not a single item that is extremely expensive in this setup. Nothing even hits 3 digits. However, from here on out, if you want to get to 70, 200, 500 bill into the big bucks, into profound, there will be quite a few things. So that's where we're gonna next look into the items. First upgrade is Israfel's Laws. This one gives you 14% more cold damage for every focus blessing. We currently have 8. It's a lot of damage. It is ridiculously strong. It even has decent energy shield, a little bit of crit damage to boot. Such good gloves, and they're used on basically universally, but they're also very, very expensive. After that, Malign Embrace, +2 max tangle, and more damage on critical strike for each activated tangle. What I will say about this one is it gives you unlucky crit. I would personally not recommend to do this before you get your pedigree. Now, there's two ways you can go about this. You can get a fluke pedigree, and then the unlucky and lucky exactly cancel each other out. That's how it works in this game. Or you can get a pedigree with acquaintance and then respec your tree into ranger, where you then take fluke. It is better to do it this way, but the reason I haven't done it this way is because the acquaintance pedigrees are a lot more expensive. So if I did that, I would not get this second mod right here. And getting a decent mod on top of fluke, at least as of this recording, is pretty reasonable. So that's why I did that, but you can do either. Whatever you get, it depends. Before that though, I would not recommend this helmet. It's still an upgrade, like 40-50% more, but if you have that lucky crit, it's more like double damage. So that's where it comes in. Getting corruptions on your old garage is actually very cheap. And if you don't know Tangle damage enhancement, it's a modifier that will come on your ultimate gear, so way later. The 500 billion does not have a single ultimate mod. I want to make that clear. Not a single one. Sometimes even tier 2s, as you can see right here. But damage enhancement is not something you get before that. So this is straight up 15% more damage right now. And you can also get a little bit extra crit. Also, a big damage multiplier is Dawnbreak, which gives you a ton of int. It gives you fervor, which is crit, and then more damage per fervor. Make sure you get more damage per 2, not per 3. And a high fixed fervor rating. And on here, you can also blend on bunch, which gives you more damage per focus blessing and +1 maximum, which is super, super strong. Now, you can also blend acquaintance here, but that costs like 10,000 FE. So people have been asking me why not. That's why. It's ridiculous. But once again, that would be better. This is a stain on the build. If you can get this tree out of here and you can actually get spec into a good tree, that is pretty big, but that's what we have to do. As for supports, click this and start upgrading it. You have to feed the same support in here and pay essence, and then every upgrade you get is 4% more damage. That is a big deal. 20% more damage here, 20% more damage here, and also maybe get better rolls of whatever you have right there. So that's pretty big. Just make sure that everything's leveled, everything's up to par. You have your supports everywhere. Precise concentrated, once again, this does work because of the frigid domain and how it works. This affects enemies, not you. So you can have frigid domain and 2 other auras with the precise concentrated. Yeah, make sure that you're everything lines up. And the last big upgrade that I did was this prism right here, Juggernaut. Now, Juggernaut is one of the most underrated prisms in the game. It is not even that expensive, not for how much it does. It literally doubled my damage. If you don't know, enemies get reduced damage from armor and resistances. This one tackles both. It makes them have no armor and another 20 pen. So it's completely ridiculous. This is so good early because all the mods that give you armor penetration are ultimate mods, which are super expensive and later, and then you can reconsider Juggernaut. But right now, Juggernaut is insane. I would get it as soon as possible. However, if you get it, most likely the only tree where you can put it is Prophet, which is bad, right? Because Prophet is where you get your 50 max Frostbite rating from. So you will have to accommodate for that. You will have to check that you have the 100 Frostbite even without it. It is worth all the while. You can see on enemies right here, 100 Frostbite. If it says less, you can't use it yet. So for example, I have a little bit of extra on my slates. I think I have +5. +5 from here, and then I also have a little bit from my ring. Another thing you might have noticed is that we're plastering our build full with uniques that don't have resistances, and even on our ring we don't have a lot, right? We have one res here and 2 reses here. What gives? This one gives like a little bit. What gives? Well, most of them are on our pact setup, so let's talk about pacts. Now, Kismets, right? They give you extra resistances. Most of my resistance comes from here. These are quite cheap. If you can't afford them, I don't know why you can afford all these other uniques, but all you have to understand is the more you add these, and you can also see my res right now is not perfect. I'll work on that now. The more you add these, the worse your resistances get. So yes, you do get double damage, but now you have to adjust for that, which is gonna bring your damage down a little bit. So just think about that whenever you get one of these high ticket items. Let's do a little weapon craft real quickly so I can help you through progression. Weapon craft, all you need to know is the item level of the weapon matters. 76 to 81, tier 3 mods max, 82, 85, 86, 99, and so on. Important to note here is that you can't just like buy an 86 weapon and then say, I'm just gonna settle for tier 3 mods. It's gonna be fine. No, it's not. The higher item level, the more you're gonna, the cost for the crafting goes up. So you wanna be in those pockets. It is important to get the right item level. And I'll show you how. So you go advanced here in trade house and you will go to weapon. Now, whether you make wands or whether you make a staff, does not really matter until like late game, but let's just make a wand for example. So item level, we're gonna say I need tier 3 mods. So we're gonna do 76 minimum and 81 maximum. Boom. And then item base, I think it's gonna be this one, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Okay, so we're just gonna buy one, right? Like you can also drop one. I'm just gonna buy one right here. There's probably one for 1 FE as well, but let's buy it. And let's start crafting. This one already comes with spell damage, so we don't have to craft that one. We can go both lightning or cold because the lightning gets converted anyway. So we can say tier 3, and there you go. You can even see what the chances are. 7% chance for tier 3 here and on the other one. Now, do note there's a few things you can do, by the way. So up here, you can fight Ordrak, the boss conquest, and you will get free crafting materials that you can use to craft. So do this as soon as possible, even if you only get to like 300, 400, it does not matter. Also, same thing with the Supreme Showdown on the bosses right here. And well, the rest is pretty easy. You just start auto crafting, you have tier 3, and then you wait. Oh, we got the lightning damage, and then you get the other one right here, 7% or so, 1 in 15 or whatever. Let's wait it out, I guess. There it is. And now in the suffixes, we can be a little bit lenient, right? Cast speed, elemental damage, and then I suppose energy shield regen is also very nice. All right, let's start crafting. Now, you can also get advanced affixes. Those are a little bit more expensive. Actually, matchless embers are easier to get. So it's actually not even more expensive. So for example, you go here and you go spell critical rating. You can also get that if you want to. It doesn't really matter. It matters from tier to tier. Okay, I ran out, but you get the gist. It's extremely easy. You need to know what you shoot for. You click the button and it happens. But yeah, that's about all I got. Whatever you guys are playing, hope you're having fun. Gemma 2 is definitely strong. Whether you play this build, whether you play Ring of Ice, Icelands, they're all really good. Can definitely approve of that. But yeah, I don't think there's going to be an update video to this. I've mostly achieved what I wanted, which is get to profounds and start farming. And then I'm going to do what I usually do, try out different builds. With that being said, this has been an outstanding build. I would highly recommend it to everybody, even if you're new at the game, as long as you follow everything I've said here, especially early on when I talk about how stuff works so you don't brick the build. And yeah, there'll be a few more Torchlight videos. It's also kind of like off season right now. So yeah, might as well. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And with that being said, there's still another slogan. See you next time.